Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another Webinar Wednesday. My name is Adam, and I'm with Colorado SIPA, your public sector partner, helping to put more information and services online. In today's webinar, we'll be exploring KnowBe4, brought to you by RubinBrown, which is a tool that can help your organization defend itself from cybersecurity attacks. Before we get started, please note that during this webinar, you are muted. If you have any questions or would like to communicate to our presenter or myself at any point during the webinar, please use the chat box in the lower corner. We have time at the end of the webinar for a Q&A, so make sure you send those questions in below as well as you think of them, and we will go ahead and handle those at the end. Today, we have the opportunity to learn from RubinBrown cybersecurity services partner, Rob Rudloff. Rob, I'll go ahead and let you take it from here.
Great. Thanks, Adam. As Adam said, today we're going to cover some security awareness training and ways to protect your organization from those threats that we all face. And so this is me. I work for RubinBrown. I lead the cybersecurity services group, and I've been doing security for a long time, over 20 years now. So ask any questions that come up during the presentation regarding security awareness or otherwise relative to security. Be happy to talk about them. So today we're just going to briefly go through why do we need security awareness, the types of attacks targeting people in our organizations, what we can do about it, and then we'll do a KnowBe4 solution demonstration. And then, as Adam said, address any questions and answers that come up. So I think we all know and probably have heard, or if you haven't, that especially during the pandemic, there's been an unprecedented increase in cyber attacks going on. And the attacks were there before, but they really reached a new volume that we've never seen before. And it coupled with things like the unemployment fraud, the PPP loan fraud, all these types of things have been going on just rampantly. And one of the things we've seen is just a dramatic increase in the phishing attacks and the ransomware attacks going on. The bullet down here at the bottom about the dark web, this is just a little anecdote that as of the time we worked this up, a local government admin account, so a system administrator account, was going for about $3,200 on the dark web. That's probably close to doubled by now because it's always done in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's had a dramatic rise recently. These slides are really just examples of the different cyber attacks that have been going on. These are focused on records breached or personal identifiable information that's been breached. And none of these are meant to throw anybody under any bus. It's just to call out that right here in Colorado, we have cyber attacks in progress and affecting us and our organizations. I think probably a lot of people on this call are familiar with City of Lafayette. That's been a big story for the last 8 or 9 months. These are just additional examples, and one of the things I want to call out on these examples is if you look at the different types of organizations affected, it's not all one group. It's not just healthcare or just public sector. It's all over the board. The criminals do really like to go after healthcare because they know they may be more willing to pay because they have to get their systems back up to provide their services. And then types of attacks targeting people. Just wanted to cover this because, great. These are the type of attacks they come after us with. So if you see your poll question, just check all the boxes that you think you've been affected by or you've seen in your organization or personally. We'll give just a second to everybody to fill that out. And again, these are the types of attacks they use to just go after people. So I think everybody's aware of phishing emails. Those are the ones that just come in and try to get you to do something or click on a button. and they tend to be broad. It's a wide net they're throwing out there to try to get people to click. The spear phishing is the next one on that list. That's really targeting individuals. Great. So we have some poll results. Oh, good. Well, I mean, not good, but interesting. We've got people. Phishing is by far the most. Spear phishing, even the vishing and smishing, and extortion, and then just social engineering in general. That's great. So we've all seen those types of attacks, and we'll go over each one of them just briefly so everybody's aware. So spear phishing that's where they target individuals. They go on LinkedIn. In our case, in public sector, they just go on our websites and look at our directory and then go after specific people. And spear phishing attacks are hard to stop because they're not a broad or widespread attack. There's not thousands of emails going out typically. It's usually very targeted. And so our normal spam and malware containment systems don't see those emails as a threat because there's just one, unless there's a malicious link or attachment in there. So as we said, vishing is that voicemail phishing. That's where you leave a voicemail and it's a call to action to get you to call back. If any of you have gotten that terrifying call from the IRS or from Social Security, only to remember, hopefully, that they don't call us. That's an interesting one. And then smishing is this text phishing, and that's really ramped up in the last few years. Quite annoying, but with unlimited texting, I guess they're making use of that. And in extortion, there's a number of varieties of this one, but it's the pay or else. And I've got an example for you. Ransomware is the most notable one that we hear about all the time. And the USB drop attack, that's the one where you just drop USBs in a parking lot or in a public area and then hope people pick them up and stick them in their computer. And USBs, relatively easy to mount keylogger software or other attacks inside them where they open up a channel into your organization. And then social engineering, all of the above, plus phone calls, even paper documents, physical presence. And this is just where it gets down into normal fraud attempts. And we also see these in combination with the other attacks. So you'll see a spear phishing attack coupled with vishing, and then follow-up phone calls, maybe even paper documents delivered. There's a fairly common attack going on, fraud attempt on Craigslist, where you're selling something and somebody offers to buy it, and then they pay you more than you agreed to. And there's something you need to do, like pay a mover or something. And that's a fairly common fraud attempt as well. Great. And then I have some examples because I always like to do a little real show and tell. And this is kind of the public service announcement to make sure we're not clicking and responding to these things. This first one, it's an older one, and you see it actually came to my account. And if you look closely, that 3063 USR is a real password I used to use a long time ago, but it's still one I use or have used in the past. And they got this from a breach where the information was disclosed either on the dark web or Pastebin or something else. So it's a real password. It's really was associated with my account. And if you read through there, they had gained access to my computer and watched me on my webcam doing naughty things. And so this is an example of pay or else, the extortion attempt. And you can see there's a Bitcoin address in there and all that. And at the time, it was relatively cheap, only $1,400 to buy the secret. Another example, and I just got this one Saturday or Sunday, but I brought it up because it's a really good, for the most part, really well done. They've got the Amazon logo in there. Evidently, I purchased something and sent it to Delaware, which obviously I don't live in Delaware. And what you can't tell, but I could when I got the email, is that all these links were disabled. The name is wrong. The from address is wrong for Amazon. But everything else looks pretty legit. Like they've got a long tracking number. Something expensive was purchased and I still owe money on it. But obviously I didn't buy that. So anyway, I just thought this was interesting and it just came in over the weekend. So I popped it in there. And of course, this one is a call to action to get you to call the number where they can try to extort you for more money. Now, this one I thought was interesting. It's a recent one as well, because I use WebRoot personally, and I just thought it was interesting because it's a call to action to call the phone number, but they're telling me that I've spent money on something, and $356 for personal use of WebRoot is outrageous. So they're trying to get me angry and make the phone call and say I never did this, so they can try to extort me. But again, warning flags. It came from a Gmail account not associated with WebRoot. It was blind copied, which is a warning sign that it probably went out to thousands of people at a time. And then again, the call to action. And then this final one, and this is pretty common if any of you have Apple phones, is to get these. And the reason I brought this one up is because the receipt is in the payload, or the nasty business is in the payload, the PDF attachment. But again, you can see this did not come from Apple or anything even close, even though it says no reply App Store. It was blind copied to me, which is a warning sign. And then it's got a receipt that's a PDF for a purchase that I'm not aware that I made. And so, again, the date in there to do a call to action to get you to move on it. And these are just examples. So the first one was extortion. The second one was just fraud. The middle two were frauds. And then this last one is really the attachment method to try to get you to download the attachment and open it. And the attachment could have a malware payload in it, or it could just have a link in there. We've seen that quite a bit, where they try to get you to go to another site to quote unquote retrieve a document. Maybe they want you to log into your Outlook so that you can retrieve that document. And what they're doing is stealing your credentials so that they can then log into your account later and do bad things. So what can we do about this? And the answer really is security awareness. So let's see, does your organization perform any cybersecurity defense? And what kind of defense? So I'll give you a second to ponder that and answer the survey. But for security awareness for our users really is our attempt to try to turn users and people in our environment from being the weakest link, which is, you've probably heard that, the people are the weakest link, because we believe and we're trusting and we're busy and we do things that we shouldn't. But if we do good security awareness training, we can actually turn them into human firewalls and at least alert systems. Great. So we've got some answers here. About just over half do some sort of cybersecurity defense. That's great. Some don't. That's too bad. And unsure, which is pretty common. So one of the things I wanted to do in this presentation is really give you a good security awareness approach. And that includes these regular touch points and impressions. So you have to think kind of in marketing terms. We want impressions. We want people to see things or hear things. And this multimodal delivery is really different modes of delivery. So think videos, think interesting emails. It could be in-person training. And if you think through all the different generations we were trying to reach in our organizations, sometimes certain methods don't work well for different generations. So we just have to think about that and what modes of delivery work best. The training really needs to be organization and culture specific. And what we're trying to get across there is think about your organization, your culture. So if you're the finance team, you may have a different style than the the water department or something else. But you have to think through that, make it appropriate. When I was a CISO at a university, we had a whole different culture to work with than any of you do. Likewise, at RubinBrown, the culture there is completely different. So you just have to adjust the training program to meet that culture. And one of the things we always encourage is gamify it, make it fun. I know my organization sends us phishing emails at least once a month. And so the way I help gamify it is when I identify them, I forward them to the IT group, the help desk, and let them know if I thought it was a good one or if they need to work on their skills a little. The most important thing though, security awareness program, is you got to design it, plan it, execute it, and measure it. So this may seem like a lot of work, especially if you're trying to do, say, monthly touch points. That takes some effort, takes some content. And if you're not a security nerd like myself, you may think that's really hard. We'll come back to this, but design it, plan it, execute it, measure it, or plan, do, check, act if you're an ITIL folk. We just need to do that. So I've got some resources for you, and these resources are free resources, which are always the best kind. So this is Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA. You may have heard of them. They sponsor the National Cybersecurity Awareness Month every October, and they have free materials on their website that you can go and look at, you can pull down and use in your organization. Another great free resource is SANS. SANS specializes in cybersecurity training. Now they have a lot of pay programs, but the site I pulled up here, their posters are all free and you can download them and use them. They're very branded to SANS, but that's okay. I like the site, they do great work. They have great training if you can afford it. MSISAC, so Multi-State Information Sharing and Analysis Center. Everybody in the public sector, state and local government, is authorized to join this for free. And so this is another resource you can use. And they have materials you can get. This site was sponsored by Center for Internet Security, which also has more resources you can use. And then finally, this one, the Cybersecurity and Information Systems Information Analysis Center, or CSIAC. This is DoD focused, but they have some great videos and great presentations and great information. But it does have a bit of a military feel to it because they are highly focused on the DoD. But those are just some free resources that I thought I would point out for you. Other resources are these commercial resources. Here we go. Do our survey. Are you familiar with any of these companies? Have you heard of them before? Whether or not they do security awareness. Some of them are broader security or defensive companies. So I pulled this list off of Gartner. You're welcome to Google it and you can see the list yourself. It's actually about 30 or 40 companies long, but I just picked the top ones off the list. And I think I'll show you KnowBe4 here in a minute, but Proofpoint is an excellent company that does good work. They do a lot more than just security awareness. Cofense and Sophos, same thing. Sophos, you may know, is a antivirus company. Barracuda is probably more well known for their spam blocking systems and their backup systems. Great. Good. That's a pretty good match. KnowBe4 is pretty well known. Proofpoint, good deal. SANS Institute also has a security awareness package that they offer. So all these companies do good work, and we're listed by Gartner in this category. Great. So these are just different commercial solutions. The next thing we're going to do is go into the solution demonstration of KnowBe4. Just want to do a brief acknowledgement that we're not trying to sell KnowBe4. It's just it's a good platform we have access to, and I'm going to use that to show you how you can implement a security awareness program using this type of tool. So we'll bring this over here. So when you enter KnowBe4, their solution dashboard, you can see you get an organizational risk score. You've got different graphs, and these are all customizable, and you can set them all up any way you like. But what I was going to show you first is how they do the phishing. And so this is where we send emails to our own people to try to train them not to click on things. And in the phishing, again, each one of these has a little dashboard that will open and give you historic events, different information that you can customize. The way you send out the phishing emails to your own organization is through these campaigns. And a campaign is just a collection of the testing that was done, however you decide to set it up. So you can see in this case, the first one has 6 tests in it. And if we go into it, we'll actually see a graph of all the clickers, who clicked, how many times they clicked, and then the different tests that were used. The thing I wanted to show you is, so when we go to design our own campaign, we can set it up any way we want. So in this case, we could call it SIPA demo. We can send to all users specific groups. So you can see there's like accounting, human resources, and IT. Or we could just say all users, and it goes to everybody that's in our system. You can set the start date, all these different aspects. We'll touch on these in just a minute. One of the things you do when you set up these campaigns is you want to start with your landing page. So what do you want users to see when they accidentally click on a bad thing? Pardon me, I clicked the wrong button. I hate it when that happens. Okay. So in the first one, you usually do use this 404 not found, and hopefully some of you have seen this before when you try to go to a website that doesn't exist and you get a 404 not found. Now the reason you use this in your first attempt is because you don't want everybody in the organization to hop up and tell each other, hey, we have a phishing email, don't click on it. At least we used to when we were back in the office. I think most of you are probably back in the offices by now, or starting to. But there's other landing pages you can use. So if we're doing our first test, we might use that one. This one is an example of a landing page that's designed to try to get you to enter information. And so this was meant to look like an Outlook login page. You can see username and password. Claims it's connected to Microsoft Exchange. There's some other issues with this landing page, but we'll go over those in a sec. But the other one I wanted to show you to make these fun is you can do things like themes. So different happy themes. You clicked on a simulated phishing email. Here's how to not do that. Things to remember. They also have puzzles. So your user would have to move these around until they get to the solution that tells them to stay safe online, and here's their tips. You can integrate videos, all kinds of things. So when you start up, you may want to use this 404 not found. And then as you go on, you really want to turn towards the pages that are more informational and encouraging users to learn from the training. Now, the exciting part, I think, is doing these different kind of attacks is you can come in here and select from all these different phishing templates that exist or create your own. So a couple that I thought were really good, I wanted to show you. Since I had this in my examples, I thought the Amazon one, and you see it gets customized to include their name, and all this information. So you can make them as good or as easy as you like. You can see there's multiple languages supported. So if that's a requirement, you can do that as well. And then the other one I wanted to show you, like this one where we're switching payroll platforms. So they want you to go log in here and enter new information. And again, all this is customizable by you or your team. And you can make it, or you can just select from the templates. There's no requirement to do any customization if you don't want to. It's just a matter of how you want to do it. So I figured we'd create a campaign just to show you how it works. So again, SIPA demo, we're going to send it to everyone. And here you can see you can do it just the one time or as often as you like. So my recommendation is monthly or quarterly. The weekly and biweekly sometimes gets a little burnout on your users. Just be aware of your culture and people. Obviously, you can customize things like the time zone, when it starts. And then this one, sending period, depends on your organizations. Sometimes we have them send all at once. If it's a large set of people, then you may want to send it out over a day or two, just so that you don't blast out 1,000 emails at once. If you define your business hours here, that goes into the clock and how things are counted. You want to track your activity, and usually you want to do this for at least a 5-day period after the email is sent. If we select our categories, so we could do the current event of the month. Let's say we do the IT support email is shut down type thing. You select from all your different links and different requirements. I like to choose the ones that that have words in them like phishing or something else, give the users a little better chance of actually detecting it. You select your landing page, like we said, with the basic groups. And then you add clickers to your clicker group so that if they click on things, then you know they've earned the opportunity for additional training. Once we're down to here, we can also send a report out to the admins after the phishing test is over if you want, or just log in and check. But then you just create the campaign and now it's set to go. And you'll see that it's currently in pending status. Within about 20 minutes, it'll actually launch. And this is a demo site, so no worries about actually launching it. So that's how you do phishing. You can set these up individually, by quarter, by month, by any other method you want. And I just flipped my screen again. And so that's that. And then you just track them as they go. And like I said, you can look in here and see the trend lines, how many people clicked, when they clicked, all that. Great. So on the training, similar interface to create a training campaign. The difference is we need to decide what training we want to send out. And you can see here that training can be one training class or it can be multiples. In this case, it's an example of integrating other training from the organization. So drug policy, new employee handbook, all that can be integrated as well if you want. If your learning management systems or your HR systems already do that, then this can be just kept to security. But one of the reasons I really like KnowBe4 is because of this content. Generating this kind of content, either in a custom way for each organization or doing it ourselves is a lot of work. So the great thing is KnowBe4 and the other platforms we discussed all have a lot of content that is ready to go. So if we look at just things that were done in 2021, you can see there's all this content you can select from if you wanted to. You can look in here, you can see it's 15 minutes. And if we view the details, it gives us a little rundown. 15-minute training, what it's going to go over, we can preview it. And as you can see, there's additional language support if needed. And then if we like it, we add it to our library. So I thought the fun thing to do would be to look at if we were going to do something on social engineering, since that's what we're talking about. And there's still a lot of content, 155 results. And so these vary by your subscription level. But what I think we ought to do is send out a micro module. And what that means is just a short video, because say it's, March and we want to send out a little training, but we don't want to use up a lot of time. Then we can get down here to the different modules that are available. And so let's say senior executive will view the details, and it comes with a quiz. So there's evidence of the training being conducted. And we want to add that to our library. So we've added it, and now we'd go back over to training. We create a campaign, set the dates. And so in this case, we want it to run, let's say we want to give them through the end of April to finish the training. And then the content is going to be the executive series, social engineering with a quiz. We're going to send it to specific groups this time. So we just want it to go to management. And again, so say we were doing this as a, if we were going to track this all the way through, then we could add a group in here that would track. But if we're using this to say, if you'd clicked on something before, we want to remove you from the clickers group so we don't force you through more training. And then you would, so as soon as they complete the training, they'll get removed from the clickers group. And then there's little things you can do like add notifications. So you want to do a welcome message that goes to users. And then we want to remind them after enrollment, we want to remind them every 5 days to make sure they get it done. And there's other notifications you can add in there as well. And then again, you create the campaign and it's set to launch. And so you'll see what dates it's going to run, who's it's targeting, content, and then over here you get the completion as people go through the training. So those are the main modules that I like to focus on. You'll see across the top here that they also have a vishing module where you can configure this. You can choose the type of voice, the message, a lot of different options. They have a USB where you create your own USB package, and then you just download it, put it on your own USBs and dribble them about to see who puts them in their computer. And I believe there's also a way you can have them send you a package of USBs if you want, but that obviously is going to cost additional funds. So we like the USB, just download it and do it ourselves. Other things about this type of solution is you'll see there's users, you can do groups, lots of imports. The users, you can put in different information for them, ranging from typically you want first name, last name, and email address, but you can also put in things like the supervisor, in case you want to send notifications to supervisors. You can put them in different groups. Either you pull this from your Active Directory or authentication system, or you create these yourselves, but that way you can target specific user groups that make more sense or higher risk for your environment. There's also ways to link this to your Active Directory so that it automatically syncs. You can set up some automation so that when a new user is added to Active Directory, it automatically syncs over and then sends them the onboarding cybersecurity awareness training. So that's really the solution demo. If there's questions on that, let me know. One of the other things I wanted to show you, just since we're talking about KnowBe4, and the other sites have these as well, but I wanted to point out just free tools available from KnowBe4. You don't have to pay for these. You might have to sign up for their marketing, but their marketing is pretty gentle. But the one thing on here, if you did want to do a phishing test on yourselves, they They have a free phishing test you can run against yourself. They have all these other tools that you can integrate. One of the tools is the Phish Alert button, and this is a button that you can configure to be visible in your Outlook, so that when your users get a phishing email or a suspected phishing email, they click on the Phish Alert button, and then IT gets an alert with the email that tells them what the email is, and then they can decide if it's a malicious email or something else. So just lots of different tools you can use. And as I mentioned, we like free tools, so I want to point those out. And then well, I have to go back into my presentation mode. Wow. Just these are the different Colorado clients RubinBrown has, and I'm sure there are more, but this is a big list of people we're working with or have worked with in the Colorado market. And we're pretty proud of our public sector group and how much public sector work we do. So if you have any questions, and with that, I think I will open it up to questions.
All right, thanks, Rob. That was some good info there. We did have a couple questions file in here, and I'm going to take liberties with updating them because as you presented, I think a couple of these things got answered. But so the first one we saw is how scalable is KnowBe4? Is there a limit to the number of tests that you can send to different email addresses or different users?
So it's very scalable. It is limited to domains that you control. So it has to be a domain, email domain that is under your control. You can't send it out to vendors or third parties. But we've seen it work for organizations with as few as 5 people and as many as 10 or 15,000. And I believe KnowBe4 actually has clients with much larger groups, but that's the ones we've seen.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And then are there other tests available besides phishing, vishing, and the USB test that you had shown?
Yes, so there's additional functionality in the tool. Some of it gets down a little more cumbersome. I won't say cumbersome. It takes a little more effort to get them to use them. And so we don't really focus on them since our real message is do something for security awareness training and just have a plan to do it and then execute the plan. So even if all you do is get just the phishing or just the training out, we'd rather see that than spending time on the other tools that are great, but may take more time and effort.
Got it. Okay. And then this one popped up while you were going through the mod store and looking at those different modules. Do you have to pay separately for different training modules, or are they all included, or how does that work?
Yeah, everything in the subscription level that you choose is included. The reason they use the mod store is just to not clutter up your dashboards interface. And so they let you go in there, preview them, decide you want to use it, and then add it over. If you select something that's not at your subscription level, then they just won't let you add it over. There's no additional individual costs.
Got it. Okay, so it's to the subscription level then. That makes sense. Okay. And then a little bit more of a general question here, but what would you say are the criteria to really look for when you're kind of choosing a security provider for like a local government?
I'd say you need somebody who's got a good reputation, good knowledge, and is not going to nickel and dime you on things. There's that list I showed of all the companies. There's some great companies out there. They vary in price dramatically. But if you get a reputable company with good data in it, all these companies are constantly updating their information. So that's the other thing for a security awareness platform I would look for is, do they have content that's up to date? Are they actively publishing new content that you can use? Because that's really what you want to see is, if you do this program for 2 or 3 years, or an ongoing basis year over year, you want new content for your user base.
Got it. Okay, awesome.
I had one other question I saw that was, so we talked about ransomware attacks, and is it still the guidance that we shouldn't pay the ransoms? Even though on that list I showed, you'll see that some of them did pay the ransom. And the guidance from the FBI is really still don't pay the ransom if you can help it. If it's your last resort, then you have to do what you have to do. But if you can, always best to recover from backups and not pay those ransoms. And then another question I get often, because I talked about spear phishing, is there a way to stop spear phishing? And the answer there is unfortunately no, because a clever attacker will actually come from a real email address that they've either compromised or they've created fresh. And so there's no history of that being a bad email account. And your spam filters will not always stop those. And so the best way, your next level of defense, is to make sure your users are trained to be wary and be a little cautious. And that's the best way to stop spear phishing.
All right. Excellent. Well, it looks like we've finished up all of our questions for the Q&A. If you find that you have more questions after we part ways here today, don't hesitate to contact SIPA or RubinBrown. You can find our contact information there on the bottom right of your screen. If you'd like to return to this webinar or view it again with a colleague, keep a lookout for the post-webinar email. That'll have the link to the video on SIPA's YouTube channel. And additionally, we really do want to make these webinars as relevant and informational as possible for all of our attendees. So it would be appreciated if you could just take a minute and fill out that quick survey following the webinar. It's short, but hopefully it'll keep us on track with being able to provide you with the information that you're most interested in learning about. So Rob, thank you again. This was very informational. We always learn a lot every time you come around. So we appreciate you doing your presentation here. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Again, Rob, thank you very much. And that's it for today. We'll catch you at the next webinar Wednesday. Thank you, everyone.